Hey, my name is Nick, and this is my wife, Jazz, and she wants to share a little story about trusting the process.
So I grew up in a home that was very Christian on the outside, very abusive on the inside. And there's a amazing story, just long story that I'm not going to go into here, but of Jesus winning my heart and my trust and eventually getting me out of that toxic, abusive situation. And the early part of our marriage was a lot of healing and growth and getting to know who Jesus really was rather than what he had been presented as to me. But then after a few years, we moved to where we currently are. We're getting ready to start a family. And I really felt like I've been through a lot of bad things, but that's all in the rear view now. And God had given me this beautiful new life, and it's all going to be great going forward. In a lot of ways, that's true. But I have come to recognize, though, that God is never done growing and stretching, and sometimes that's really hard. And when we moved here, we wanted to start a family, and we got pregnant, and we're really excited, and proceeded to have some miscarriages, and that was very difficult. And through that process, I felt so betrayed by God because he had allowed so much in the past, and I had kind of come to terms with him allowing those things in my past, but then to have him allow what felt so devastating again was very disorienting to me. And I couldn't get my head around, who is this God who just continues to allow tragedy? And God just kept showing up to me. There was some really dark times where I felt like I couldn't even acknowledge him and I couldn't look at him. But he was so faithful to still be with me, even in that. And he was so gentle in how he won my heart back. It's hard to articulate because it was just so personal to what I needed from him. And honestly, in some ways, he didn't answer my questions, but he also still showed me that he was safe to trust again. I'm slowly learning through recovering from that, and then we were able to get pregnant again, and we have a beautiful baby girl now. But even in that process, it was so disorienting because she came almost a month early. There were some complications, and it was a really hard first 3 months with her. There was so much crying on her part and my part, and extremely small bits of sleep. And a lot of that is normal. But with time and perspective, it's even been healing to recognize that it was an abnormally difficult first 3 months for us. Mm-hmm. And with that, I've really struggled at times to go through a hard season. And afterwards, I can see how God was with me. But in the thick of it, I have ached to know, technically, I understand Jesus is with me. The Holy Spirit is carrying me through this. But practically, what does that mean? And I was listening to a podcast a couple weeks ago about the beginning of Genesis, and they were sharing about how ruach is the word in the Hebrew for the Spirit, and the fullness of what that word can mean in its original context, and how it's actually so integrally tied to our breath. And talking about that passage at the very beginning of Genesis where it talks about how God breathed into man the breath of life and he became a living being. And how that is all linked together with the Holy Spirit. And that has been such a shift for me, because I can remember so many times when literally all I can think to do in a crisis is I have to remind myself to breathe. And that's all I can do. I can't move. I can't cry even sometimes. But I have to remind myself, take a deep breath. And to recognize in hindsight and in the present and in the future, every single deep breath has been Jesus literally carrying me and the Holy Spirit filling me to sustain me through the next, 3 seconds, and then another breath and the next 3 seconds. And that has been just so sustaining and life-giving to me. I feel so much, in a sense, more equipped to trust Jesus with the hard things, whatever they may be in the future, and to have a tangible walking it out of, this is really, really hard, but I actually am experiencing the Holy Spirit carrying me right now with every breath that I'm taking.